Hello everyone, my name is Ashu Sharma. Today our topic for discussion is overview on RDBMS, ORDBMS and OODBMS. Before starting this discussion, I just want to tell you whenever we talk about the database models and transitions, generally we just classify it into two parts. One is object relational data model and other is object oriented data model. So once this relational database comes in mind, generally we deal with that tables, row and columns. And when we talk about object-oriented DM, so basically core element is object. So when we talk about the database model transition, very first we have that comes into that scenario is hierarchical. So that is very much there. After hierarchical, there is a network data model. Again, next one is relational, and after that, entity relationship ER data model. So this happens, and then semantic, something which is related to actions or operations results. So further, we divide it into OR, object relational DM, ORDM, and OODM, object oriented DM. So this is the way that we generally transit and start with hierarchical, go towards that network, relational, ER data model, semantic, and at the end we have this object relational DM data model and object oriented data model. So there, once we talk about in comparison, there are certain limitations to be had this with RDBMS. So what those limitations is point to be noticed. First is that semantic overloading. Semantic overloading is sometimes number of operations are going to be quite high. So at that time, it will be difficult to manage all sorts of things. So it becomes a little bit limitation with that relational database. Next is poor representation of real world entity. Poor representation of real world entity. So this is also a big deal. And another is homogeneous data structure. Homogeneous DS data structure. After that, there is a limited operations and several those things. Those are in heterogeneous environment. It's very difficult to adjust with this or in point of view storage and processing. When do we talk about this relational database management system? And it has that difficulty in long transactions. When we talk about number of transactions that happen is going to be taking some bit of time, then at that time it is having that limitation. So this is that we have those things with this RDBMS. Now next one is when we talk OODBMS. So OODBMS. So here we have certain features like complex object. It supports that complex objects supports that. Next is object identity. Is very important when we do consider that identity, state, and behavior of an object, and then some of that oops characteristics like encapsulation. This is also a very important feature for safety and security point of view of data. In classes, every time we have to make a stance once that we deal with certain classes and objects concepts. So then inheritance, very important characteristics, inheriting properties, environment from superclass towards that subclass, and many more. Overriding, late binding, extensibility, congruency is also when we do work with that environment which multiple processes are going to be work together. So at that time, it happen. We have to deal with concurrency concepts also, and recovery. If a certain amount of data is going to be lost, then we should have that option as well. So these are some of those great features of object-oriented database that management system. So if we compare this RDBMS also having great features that we store data into tabular format, that wonderful concepts of keys and all these things. So DBMS having this type of approach, but when we talk about that multiple format of data is coming in bulk amount, then there will be very difficult to manage all sorts of things in relational manner. So this is also one thing. Second is when we talk about storage levels. So RDBMS, we have main or virtual memory, okay, then transferring, and there is some type checking also along with that database management system. Suppose SQL we are using, so up towards that secondary storage. In ODBMS, we have main or virtual memory, and then directly we jump towards that secondary storage. So this is also a big advantage that we have with this. Next is when we talk about disadvantage, as we have seen in RDBMS as well. So lack of universal data model is also that disadvantage. Lack of universal data model is also one limitation. Then complexity is also there. Complexity is also a big challenge, and lack of support for views. So lack of support for views is also quite challenging, and support for security is also some ways in limitations. So these are the disadvantages that we have with this OODBMS, Object-Oriented Database Management System. Next is ORDBMS, an Object Relational Database Management System. When we talk about ORDBMS, so generally we do consider it at the time when we have this ORDBMS. Here we have to add certain features. Those are associated with object-oriented system to RDBMS. So here we have some certain features. Those features are user extensible. User extensible. So this is also a big feature. Again, encapsulation. This is also big feature. Inheritance. This is also another, and polymorphism, dynamic overloading. We do have that challenging stuff there. Polymorphism. When we talk about compile time or runtime polymorphism, then object identity, again, big OBJ identity. This is very important for object attributes. So these are certain comparisons when once we talk about, and most of ORDBMS, when we do consider the drawbacks, so we have drawbacks, complexity again. So this is also one challenge that we have to face either in OODBMS or ORDBMS, along with complexity. Next one is increased cost. Increased cost is also a big challenge, and provision of languages which will front end to SQL and will provide a migration path for existing SQL users. So there is a provision of languages which will front end to SQL. SQL it takes as a front end and will provide a migration path for existing SQL users. So this is also one challenge that we have to face here in ORDBMS. So this is little bit features and pros and cons of RDBMS, ORDBMS, and OODBMS. Thank you so much being with me in this session. Have a nice day.